just get a newer PC.
Get a newer PC.
I like Alienware.
Alienware. That's made for more for. That's got gaming specs though.
Yeah,
but I guess
but
you can
performance.
So we are on with Cyrus. Probably a lot of my viewers don't know Cyrus, but I used to hang out with Cyrus and knew him from various places in town when we were younger, a bit ratbag-ish. And
10 years ago, maybe.
Actually, Cyrus, more than I'm 30 in 3 weeks. And so, Cyrus, would you call yourself an entrepreneur?
It's a cool
Just
title.
to an extent.
It's a cool title. I'll take it if someone says it.
Yeah, and he's done very well for himself,
Thank you.
and he's created a lot of successful companies. Stays in shape, lives a healthy lifestyle. Completely opposite to me, but we've been trying to line this up for a while, and you've been based out of Melbourne for how long?
Yeah, I've been ping-ponging between Melbourne and Adelaide. So my family moved to Adelaide ages ago, and long story short, 2019, 2 months before COVID, I went to Melbourne to expand CarSwap, one of my main app, and you won't believe it, man. It was 2 months before COVID. So we go there, set up shop. We're like, all right, here's our plans and our projections for, the year 2020. We want to do this January, February, March, April, May, all the way up to December. This is our plan and our projections. February, this thing, COVID strikes, and it disrupts everyone in every way. And of course, we had to strategize and adapt. That's one of the keys in business. And I kind of surprised myself. We beat our projections, like our target for 2020. We beat it by 50%
During COVID.
With COVID.
Really? I would have thought that would have kind of nailed your business a little bit.
Well, digital businesses favored well in general, but the ones that strategized and adapted did even better than the other digital businesses.
Did you see COVID coming along the horizon and made plans before it totally hit Australia, or did you just kind of adapt on the fly?
On the fly, yeah, because there was no way to see it coming. I first heard about it in like January when they were saying it was in overseas, and every other year there's like some sickness, some viral sickness.
That's the thing. It was. I always say I would love to go back to that time, because it was almost like a zombie movie where you're listening on the radio, blah, blah, blah's an outbreak, and you turn it to the next channel because you're like, oh, another one. But then it hit like nothing our generation will ever see again.
Yeah, it was definitely very rough and a unique, for our generation and our parents' generation. I don't think we had anything like that.
It made a lot of people a lot of money. It made as many people, it lost money. It made a lot of people a lot of money.
Definitely.
That even housing prices in Adelaide compared to when you left, arriving back.
Yeah, I saw.
It's phenomenal.
Because there was a transfer of the population. So the states that were better managed, people migrated there from the states that were worse managed during COVID, naturally, So, that's why like housing prices went down the most. And for example, Victoria, I mean, I think everyone would agree that was like the worst COVID managed state in Australia.
Oh my God, they had the harshest lockdown almost in the world.
At one point, Victoria had the most days in lockdown in the world. It was a world record of lockdown. Victoria had that title. Due to mismanagement.
And it's insane. It's not insane. It's actually, it's insane that people didn't go crazier, like in the streets. And I don't know, because I wasn't there. I don't know how much the media was showing, or if there was rioting or this and that. But I imagine if that was in, say, Texas, there would have been a lot. There would have been a lot of
different story,
a different problem over there.
Yeah, like one thing I noticed when I would talk to my family in Adelaide, I'm like, oh, did you hear this thing that happened? And they were like, no. I was shocked at how like compartmentalized the news was across states. So like there was a little bit of couple instances of many instances of like police brutality in Victoria.
Yes, obviously,
yeah, and like every other day or every other week there was like some like shocking scenario. It was like, whoa, like I can't believe that happened in like a Western civilized country like Australia. And then I would like ask my family or friends in Adelaide, I'm like, hey, did you see that thing? And like they hadn't heard about it. And I was shocked.
You grew up in Texas, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was born in Ohio.
You were born in Ohio.
Born in Ohio. That's why I'm like, my accent's like, some words sound like northern, like I'm from Canada. People are like, are you from
You
Canada?
do have a Canadian accent.
And then like some other things I'll say, like I'm like, oh, y'all. Like Texas say y'all a lot. And as soon as I say that, like, oh, are you from Texas? So.
And your family migrated to South Australia when you were how old?
Well, we came at different times actually, because I had just graduated uni. I was actually 19, and I was starting my master's, and at Flinders.
Yeah.
And so I and my brother and sister were 1 year short of graduating high school. So either I had to like wait in America for a year and do nothing, or leave a year early by myself. So, the family discussed it, and they figured the best strategy would be as if I just came on my own 1 year early and got a 1 year ahead. And my family came after that. And very happy, awesome country and all that. Glad we did it. Every country has its advantages and disadvantages, and you just have to decide based on your criteria. There's no, it's hard to define a best country in the world. This country might be great for that, and if you want to drive fast, Germany has the Autobahn. There's no better country to be in than, so it just depends on your criteria. Where is the best place?
Texas has really blossomed kind of since you've obviously been. Did your family retreat back to there ever for holiday or?
Yeah, we used to go more often, and then over time didn't go as often. But I would definitely recommend Texas as one of the states in America to live. It's probably the number one state to live in America, in my opinion.
At the moment, Austin's probably one of the most, as we were saying off camera, Austin's probably the most, in
Hot.
terms of growth, having one of the biggest economy growths in America in a long time, which is weird because obviously LA and California are declining a bit over there because of all the craziness that's happened in the last, say, 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. Same as what we were just saying about Australia. Naturally, the states that are better managed will be more attractive, and the states that have worse management, people don't want to be there. So the same thing that happened within Australia with COVID, the same thing's happening in America. There's this chart, if you just Google something like U.S. population shift census, something like that, a combination of those keywords. There's a chart that shows, in 2021, I think it was, it'll say it has a line down the middle, and it's these are the states that lost people, and then these are the states that
Gained.
And the two states with the largest loss was, I know California was I think the number one lost
They
state.
had a mass migration of people.
I think number two was New York. And then on the flip side, the largest gain was, I'm pretty sure it was Texas, and I think number two was Florida. And it's it can spin. People can try to spin it however they want.
Everyone went to the red states.
Yeah, and we're talking in order of magnitude of 500,000 people, 400,000 people. It's
America is the greatest reality TV show the world has ever seen. It really is. It's a social experiment there.
It's a pretty dramatic nation, but it has its amazing advantages.
And then the election coming up next year, that's going to be another rat race. I know off camera you didn't want to talk politics, but this is, I don't even attribute American politics as politics because it's more comedy.
It's like world event.
It's a world event. It's a comedy show, especially with the candidates they throw at people now. It's wild.
And if you look at almost every election year, there's some crazy shit happening,
Always.
The last, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but COVID happening the election year. You know what I mean?
There's always something.
Yeah.
There's always something.
Either it's the year before, the year of the election, or the first year into the presidency, or some turbulent topic arises out of nowhere that gets stuck. And it's just very suspicious.
And your family, obviously, I think from memory, your family's also your father and mother are very driven and well-established people as well. What did they do?
Yeah, so they're pretty much my number one source of inspiration and motivation. And so my dad was basically always in tech, pretty much from when he was like 20. He was in tech.
Before tech was
Tech was a thing. Yeah. It's like showing his age a bit. Like back when the computers were like sizes of rooms, you know. And my mom, when she first met my dad, she was in the dental space industry, and she wasn't too happy with it. And one of the main reasons she told me is like she didn't enjoy having to wear the masks and difficulty breathing and all that. And so when she complained to my dad about it, my dad was like, why don't you just get into real estate? Just do something different. You recommended real estate. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll think about it. And she decided to do it. And she made the jump, which is a pretty big sacrifice. And I respect that. You know, imagine like something you spent years studying. And
that's also very comfortable living. Whereas real estate, I imagine, can be very sporadic. And it's a very different role. You have to be energetic. You have to attract people. You have to have kind of the gift of the gab almost.
Yeah, like dental is pretty like stable, whereas real estate's like a little bit more volatile, like whether you're going to have a massive portfolio or...
And you're relying on so many factors in house pricing.
Totally, yeah. But my mom did amazing. She had a really big portfolio of like residential and commercial. After the cost, I'll tell you like some examples of massive properties that she owned and managed. Very proud of her, and it was very and I appreciate that they got me involved when I was really young. And one of the cool things was that my mom and dad's businesses were always headquartered in one of my mom's buildings. So as a kid, literally since I was born, my mom had a crib in her office. And so I was literally born and raised in that environment. And then like as soon as I was old enough to like start doing things, they started giving me tasks. You know, I don't know if I got paid when I was like less than 10 years old, but I think like post 10, I started getting compensation, you know. And
it's funny you say that though, because it's such an immigrant mentality to grind and bring your kids to work. Like I used to have a cot at the back of my mum and dad's fish and chip shops.
Yeah, wow, there you go, same principle.
I would be peeling potatoes when I was like 3 or 4.
Well, there you go.
Just things like that.
There you go.
Same but different. That. It's just that immigrant mentality. It's like, no, we're not going to take time off work. We're going to bring them to work. And they're going to work for free.
Yeah, dude, that's funny. Same. But we're both glad they did it.
Yeah, or it just builds a work ethic in you from a young age, totally. Which people do not have anymore.
And like what we witnessed through our child labor, what we witnessed, it helped us stick what we learned in school. Like, so in school, when they have like when you take this class and they have this like math thing, or when they have this like business thing or this management thing, you're like, oh yeah, I saw that as a kid. It was everything became relatable that we learned.
Do you feel that the school systems, how can I word that? Do you feel like the current curriculum and the way teachers teach things is becoming obsolete because of technological advances and like just the way things are going? It's almost like a dated system now.
Yeah, it's not being run at its full potential. Definitely.
It's not optimized.
It's not optimized. It's far from optimized. Now, different schools have different levels of optimization. You know, some schools might be like really close to like, you know, they have a good team that really cares and the students love it there and their courses are on point. You know, those will be ahead. Whereas some places that might be under budget and this and that, and the teachers aren't happy and there's politics and that spills onto the kids and they just don't get to learn. Yeah.
Your dad must absolutely spin out working in tech that early on to seeing the capabilities of things such as ChatGPT now would absolutely blow his mind.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is he's always stayed active and
so he's always kept up with technological advances and everything.
Yeah, even better than keeping up, he is actually innovated. So since he was like in his like 20s, he was getting involved in patents, like coming up with ideas and patenting them. Initially, it was for the companies he worked with or did consulting for, but then I think from like pretty much his 30s and onward, all of his patents were for his ideas. And even now he's like about 70 years old, and he is still patenting and developing innovative technology. It's amazing.
Things like that are so good though, because it keeps your brain ticking.
Oh, 100%. There's it's very clear to see, like when I was younger, when I was like, let's say 15, 20 years old, I thought to myself, oh, I want to retire when I'm like 30. I want to retire when I'm like 40. The problem is, it's like statistical at this point. People that retire too young, their brain, and often there's a correlation with their body that it fades or diminishes, or it's not maintained. It's like a car; it's not maintained.
Or when you don't have an end goal, when you don't have a goal in mind, or you don't have it almost, there's nothing, when there's nothing you feel there is to live for, you kind of shut off and just go into autopilot.
Yeah, it's like atrophy. Atrophy is like the right word for it. If you don't use your legs, like if you just sit for like a year, like people in the hospital, if they're stuck and sit for a year, they have to relearn how to walk. So it's like, imagine if you like don't challenge your mind for a year, But
that's the one thing I like about this podcast. It makes me think in so many different ways.
Oh yeah.
Like I've had conversations with people, say like you right now, to people who've spent 15 plus years in prison for crimes, or I've done podcasts with an AI engineer for NASA.
Wow. Yeah. Very diverse.
Like, it's just so diverse, and I'd never have the opportunity to do anything like that unless I had this podcast.
The other thing I really enjoy about podcasts on the viewer side is that you can absorb decades of someone's hard-earned experience.
Oh my God.
And juice it in like an hour or two.
So when COVID hit, because I was very into podcasts from an early age, as soon as I found out you could have, before AirPods, before like Apple things, I was smashing podcasts. And then COVID happened, and because of our family business, it was a takeaway business. We were actually deemed necessary, like essential.
Essential, yeah.
And we're exploding. It was insane how busy we were.
Awesome.
But we weren't allowing X amount of customers into the shop at a time. So it was come in, get out, we'll deliver you your food to your car.
Oh, limit like a capacity.
So we would let one person in at a time, and we would deliver their food to their car in the car park. But that meant I could have my AirPods in all day. So for like 1.5 years, I was listening to 4 or 5 podcasts a day.
Oh my God.
I clocked, and I'm not exaggerating, I think it was like 7,200 hours of Joe Rogan.
Yeah, nice.
I backdated his whole catalog.
Wow.
And that was just one podcast. Like, I was listening to
one source.
Lex Friedman like almost daily.
Yeah.
It was just insane. But like you said, the amount of knowledge you can get from people.
Like, I would venture to say that, I can tell you this, you will have a better density of learning from podcasts than school. So like if you spend if you look at like a 1 week of year 5 or 1 week of year 10, and you compare that to 1 week of pure podcast, or the same hours, let's say from class, I don't know what school hours are anymore, it's like 9 to 3 or something like that.
I believe it's like at 9 o'clock to about 3 p.m.
Yeah, so if you do that in a school, or borderline probably even a uni, and then you compare to those same hours watching podcasts, especially the right podcasts, you're going to learn so much more.
You also factor in at school, you're with your friends, you're being little shits, and like you're not that, like a lot of people, like it's not the same environment when you're listening to a podcast and say you're going for a walk or something. I think it's scientifically documented that you absorb knowledge a lot better when you're exerting physical energy and listening to something at the same time. Yep. You can retain knowledge a lot better. Yeah, is that something you do?
Well, ever since I became conscious of that, like I saw something on the internet where it said, like, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know the principle, that if you see something, you learn like this % of it. If you hear something, you remember like this % of it. And if you do something, you remember this, all the different sources. And so now it's like when I really want to remember something, I'll like see it and say it, and maybe even hear it. And it's like you stack those percentages. And
yeah, and you've obviously been going to the gym for a while. You've been Jack since before Jack was being cool. Because being Jack's cool now, but you've been Jack before that.
Well, Yeah, I've been training basically 5 days a week.
You're the first person I've seen with like 12 abs.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you the story behind the abs as well. The thing about... Okay, we'll just dive into the story. Yeah, it's okay. So I was like... When I was in school, before year 8, I was actually like a difficult student. I was like a troublemaker. I was one of the worst kids in school. I won't even say on the podcast some of the things I'd done while I was in school, yeah. But my friend's like, "Oh, remember the time you did that?" I'm like, "Shh," yeah. And I was getting into a lot of fights. Actually, I was getting like physical fights.
You?
Yeah, you wouldn't think it.
Jesus.
I was the complete opposite to what I am now. And when I was in year 8, I got in this one last fight, and it was back when like your mom jokes were funny. Everyone's making your mom jokes, and I made a your mom joke about this guy, and the whole class was like, "Oh God," like burn. And I was just sitting like this. I was just sitting like this in my chair, and he was like acting like he was just like leaving the classroom, and when he walked by me, he punched me in the stomach. And it winded me. I couldn't breathe for like a minute or two, and I was shocked. I've never had anything like that happen in my life. So I was just like winded, and he just like ran out of the classroom, and because he knew I would like come after him eventually. What happened was, after that, I was like, I'm never gonna let that happen to me again. And so I was like 12 years old.
Still to this day.
Yeah. I was like 12 years old, and I started doing like, I don't know, hundreds of sit-ups a day. So I was like this like skinny, scrawny teenager. By the time I had abs, I was like 13 plus. Teenager with like this like, shredded 6-pack, 8-pack, however many it was. And so like those where the 6-pack came from. But I was always passionate about gym. I was always going in and out of gym. Like most people, people will go for a couple weeks, skip for a couple weeks, go for a couple months, skip for a couple months. But about 10 years ago, I got really serious about gym. I think I saw like some photo of some bodybuilder, and I'm like, I want that physique. And it was actually Lazar Angelov, if anyone knows Lazar Angelov.
Of course, it was Lazar.
You know Lazar Angelov?
Yeah, is he still going?
Yeah, he's still going.
Because he had some technical difficulties of some sort. He was
Injuries
fairly ill, and he lost a massive amount of size at some point.
He gained it back. Like last I saw, like he got.
He's
it back.
Iranian as well.
No. We look similar.
I was going to say
because
you do look pretty similar.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. He is. I think he's Bulgarian.
All right.
Yeah, and so he was like my motivation when I saw his photo. I'm like, I want that physique. So I got serious. I stopped skipping. And one of the things I did was I got a scale, put it in my bathroom, got a piece of paper, taped it above the scale. This is before like scales had apps or whatever. Maybe they existed and I just didn't know about that time. And every morning I logged my weight, ate as much as I could, trained as much as I could. And I just watched incrementally like 0.05 kilos. It's like nothing, like fractions of a pound. But And not every day was up, Some days are up, some days are down. Some days are up, some days are down. But the bottom line was like each month I was bigger than the month before. And after the first like month or two of that, it became addictive. Like I'm a numbers person and stuff like that. So
you're also very regimented, I imagine.
Yeah, disciplined and competitive and all that. So I was like, okay, let's just, I set a goal weight. I'm like, okay, I want to get this big. And 6 months later, I'm that big. And I'm like, okay, let's set another limit. And so from start to finish, I put on like 15 kilos of muscle from like when I just got serious about gym to my peak.
And so how do you find, I would not want to even see your schedule. What time do you have to wake up in the morning, like every day? Because I imagine your work would be seven-ish days a week.
So I've gone through different phases with it. At the peak intensity, like CarSwap, the first 2-3 years, it was.
Let's actually touch on that. For people who don't know, Cyrus are you co-creator?
Co-founder. Yeah.
Co-founder of an app called CarSwap. Do you want to touch on that? Because that is obviously is that your baby?
Yeah, there you go.
That would be your,
Zoom in.
your crowning jewel, I imagine.
Yeah, it's my largest business I've created. It's simply put, it's like Tinder for cars. It's an automotive classifieds platform. We've got users all around the world, and incorporated in 2017. And it's pretty fun, pretty cool. We've been like 7 years, 9 years, Today Show, stuff like that.
So basically, you put your car on, someone puts their car on. If you both match, you can organise to trade cars or add money on top, whatever have you.
Exactly. Yeah. Like just like Tinder. You know, some people are dating, some people are marrying. It's a full spectrum. So
You just hit that when Tinder was in its prime too. Perfect timing.
well, the thing is, see, I had the idea for CarSwap. I think it was 2012 or 2013. That was when I first got the idea. But I was busy with my previous business, and I was like, this isn't the time to execute. But then, like, over the next few years, I learned different things, like on tech and marketing and management and this and that. And then, I think Tinder came out around, I don't know when it came out, but I think I might have first heard about it around 2015 or something like that. So that became one of the final steps to deciding, oh yeah, we can do CarSwap like this with the matchmaking interface. If I have this car and you have this car and we swipe on each other, we match. Like, I want your car, you want my car. That's a transaction. And it was so easy. And it made something so difficult into something so easy. Because, like, if we didn't know each other and if CarSwap didn't exist, how would we have found each other to trade cars? We wouldn't have.
For people who are car people, it's a very, very good app. And
Thank you.
Cyrus also has taken the cake for parking the nicest car that'll ever be in my driveway.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Oh my god!
I'm sure you'll top it. You'll top it.
Oh, I don't think not in this house.
It might take time.
Oh my goodness! He rolled up in it, and I was like, "Hey, do you want me to move my car so you can park in front of it?"
No, I appreciate it.
It's
I
very
love cars.
nice. You've always loved your cars, though.
Oh, ever since I was a kid, yeah. It's one of the things that motivated me. I just wanted, unfortunately, because cars are so expensive, like, you can't just have what you want. You have to earn it.
You have to work your way to it.
Yeah.
Were your parents very adamant on you finding your own way?
Definitely, yeah. That's why I don't have all the cars that I want right now, because they're not helping.
Well, that could almost be a. People see having wealthy parents or growing up wealthy as a massive advantage. It could be a very big detriment to you in the long run if your parents don't make you find your own way.
Yeah, I think I heard something like a movie or something. It's like the right amount of trauma that has like that peak motivation. Like, it shouldn't be too easy. It shouldn't be too difficult. You need just the right challenges and motivations to like spark, like, you know, like an air fuel mixture for a spark. If you have too much air, it won't take off. If you have if you have too much fuel, it won't work either. You have to have the right air fuel mixture. So yeah, as a kid, you know, I just wanted really nice cars, and, you know, these cars cost millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands, and like, you don't naturally have that money inherently. You have to like earn it or obtain it. And my parents wouldn't just buy me the Bugatti I want. So like, damn, like, I gotta put my time and effort into, you know, getting it for myself.
Did you what was the moment you were like, oh, do you remember the moment you were like, oh, I'm making something of myself and it's getting it's getting big?
Yeah, it's getting big. It's like, I analogize a lot of stuff to gym. It's relative. You know, like, even when I put on my first like 3 kilos of muscle, I'm like, oh my God, I'm different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, every couple kilos, like, your body shape changes. Like, let's say every 5 kilos or every 3 kilos. It's like a different. So with business, even the success is like, there's a spectrum. It's hard to say successful. Like, even successful people may not feel. It's like body dysmorphia. You know, people that go to the gym, they have all this muscle, and then in their mind, I'm not big enough.
It's like your first $1,000 might have felt better than your first 100.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's like my first 5, like we were talking off camera. I made I got monetized, I think, 2 days ago, and I've made my first. Thank you, and thank you for everyone for subscribing. I made my first $5, and it seems like such a little thing to people, but it's like, oh my God. Well, I made money off YouTube.
Yeah. And, here's the thing, like, making money is basically your commission or your compensation for generating value for others. A lot of people don't get this. People are like, oh, I want to get rich. I want to make a lot of money. But they're like, how do I do it? You are enabling people to learn, and you're entertaining and all of that sort of stuff. So that's naturally like, and the more people you entertain and educate, you make more money in this space. In every space it works differently. And like people, and it'll compound, like just like the weight, every month will be larger than the month before it. So this month's 5, next month will be 50, and then the month after that, hopefully 500, and whatever the slope is. But the bottom line is each month will have growth.
And with your, going back, to your CarSwap app, you actually have another app in the works.
Yeah.
We only talked very briefly about it over message, so I don't actually know much about it. So what is the name of it and the purpose?
Yeah, so we've basically just launched this app. It's called TowTap, TOWTAP. And simply put, it's like Uber for tow trucks. It was actually one of my best friend's ideas. Not my idea. I can't take credit for the idea. But I've been friends with, his name is Wells. You might know Wells.
Oh, DJ Wells.
DJ Wells. Yeah. Oh, he's brilliant. And
is he still DJing?
He still DJs, yeah. That's his profitable hobby.
I was going to say, shout out to Wells. He's probably the best R&B / hip hop DJ in SA easily.
Yeah. Such a great guy. And that's what most people know him for, but he's so much more than that.
Doesn't he own a clothing company as well?
He grew it and he sold it. Yeah. It was Fairfax.
What was it called? Fairfax.
Yeah,
Fairfax on Rundle Street.
Grew it and sold it. Yep. His business partner, he bought it out or something like that. They
Good
made
on
some
him.
sort of deal. And he's also got his pilot license, and
he's got his pilot license.
He's got a pilot license.
He's a pilot.
Oh yeah. And he knows his
Really?
stuff too. He really knows his stuff. Yeah. So, and we've been friends 10 years. Since Star Bar days.
Bump and grind.
Yeah. That was his next one, and so he's always been good to me. Always looked after me when I went to his club. So I had a lot of appreciation and respect for him. And over the last few years, he'd always bounce business ideas off of me, especially after I made CarSwap and it took off and all that. And one day he hit me up and he's like, I just had my car break down and I had to get a tow truck, and it was such a difficult process. I'm not going to go into detail now. It was as we all know, it's difficult to get a tow truck. A lot of effort, and you have no idea when they're coming. You're just sitting there. Did they forget about me? Could I go get food and come back? What if they come while I'm gone? Can I go to the bathroom and come? So when he told me he wanted to make this Uber for tow trucks, I was like, we're making it. The other ideas, I'm they were good. There were various degrees of good, but not at that threshold of execution. You really want to execute something that you're 100% certain about. And I was like, TowTap, that's the one. And we've been making it, and we've got these great strategic partnerships and signing up national mechanic groups. So we knew up front that we could make a percentage off of the tow trucks. So we're like, okay, we'll help the tow truck get a gig. Someone who needs a ride, we'll bring the ride to the tow truck. They don't have to advertise. They don't have to do nothing. We'll bring you the customer. In return, we just want 10%. That's less than what Uber charges too. We're we just want 10% of the trip. We all knew that. And then I came up with, I can take credit for this idea. I was like, we can also charge the destination. And he was like, what do you mean by that? I was like, we can sign up all the mechanic shops, body shops, tire shops, and then recommend them in the app. So when, if someone's cars break down and they want to go to the nearest mechanic shop, they just press the mechanic button, and they'll be like, oh, this is 500 meters away.
Whoa, now that
And
is how you play 4D chess.
and that's what, I want to profit from benefiting others. That value we were saying, you have to create value for others to be rewarded. I'm like, all right, I want to benefit the person whose car broke down. I want to help them get to the nearest mechanic. The mechanic shops, we want to help them get more customers, and then we make a reasonable
There's
percentage.
3 parties winning in that transaction alone.
Exactly.
4 even, the tow truck driver as well.
Yeah, there you go, 4 parties. So it's really fun and exciting doing stuff like that.
Is that and that's available now?
Yeah, it's available right now.
And have you signed up in Adelaide? So is it functional in all states?
our focus is Victoria and SA just because like geographically we're there, but we've already signed up groups that have locations across Australia.
I always see a CarSwap. I see a CarSwap electronic kind of billboard on Beach Road in Christie's Beach all the time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've got a it's like our secondary offering within CarSwap. You know, we made this app to help people transact and dealerships to connect with people who want the dealership's cars. And my background before CarSwap, as you know, is digital screens and digital billboards. So naturally, we combined that product within CarSwap. So when a car dealership signed up to advertise their cars on the app, we also went back to them and said, hey, why don't you just put a digital billboard, digital screen out front and advertise your stock, the cars that are in the back that no one can see, just shuffle them on the screen. So like, you know, maybe the car that I drive by a dealership and the car that I want was actually in the third row. You won't see it driving by. But if you see it on the screen, like, oh.
Yeah.
And then you go there.
Do you feel like that form of marketing, you kind of got out of it at the perfect time because obviously social media marketing has taken over almost that physical kind of marketing now?
I think of marketing as like a mix, like a salad. There's all these ingredients and there's different preferences. But actually, what I like about digital outdoor is it's one of the only mediums that can't be blocked. Yeah, that's what I like about it.
Can't ad block a billboard.
Man, yeah, the only way is to wear a blindfold while you drive, and that's not legal. So.
It's so true. Like the amount of ads are obviously the algorithms are tailored to your needs, so you're seeing more things that you are more susceptible to buy. But I don't think I've ever come across an ad on the internet that that has gone through with a purchase from me.
Well, that's also one of the things that like my dad is actually trying to innovate. Some of our recent patents are. One of our patents is called ARV. It's about the digital screens and digital billboards reacting in real time to environmental factors.
That's fun.
And it was mostly his idea. I can't take credit for that either.
How do you do that?
Things with like cameras and stuff like that. There's other companies that are like infringing on our patents right now by trying to do some of these features that we patented like 5-10 years ago. But yeah, so like, you know, like for example, the camera will look and see it's like a 2005 BMW, and then it'll show a 2023 BMW, stuff like that. So you know, so if they have like this pool of advertisers that are saying, hey, serve this,
yeah.
when the right car or person goes by, or even like one of our other elements of that embodiments of that patent is on a hot day. It can advertise sunscreen.
Yeah.
Or on a cold day, it can advertise like hot chocolate or something like that.
That's a genius idea.
Yeah, we came up with that sort of together. Yeah.
We
were just kind of added. You know, like sometimes like we come up with an idea and like you're like, oh, we should do that, and I'm like, oh yeah, we should do that.
Like at my family's dinner table, we're all just yelling at each other and stuff, and at yours, you're just coming up with patents. That's funny. Do you incorporate all the, like, within the last 6 months, the advancements in AI are like nothing we can even fathom? Do you use that to your advantage now with your code? Do you code?
I know a little bit of programming. I know enough to like discuss things with programmers, but I don't really program myself. No, I took a class on it in high school, and I've been around programmers my whole life.
You know enough to know what you want is physically possible.
Exactly. Yeah, I know enough to like explain it and say, hey, we need this button that does this, and I think we should do it kind of like that. And then, you know,
people are making full-blown games coded by ChatGPT.
I've heard about that. It's amazing. I think in the technology will just keep compounding and expanding it, because I think they're on like GPT 3, 3.5, and then 4. Like, you know, these versions, in each version is like exponentially smarter than the version before it. So it's like we can barely imagine what ChatGPT version 5 would be, much less version 6, like, which we know will inevitably come.
The steps in it that have got... So I didn't know about ChatGPT, and then I think it was out for like a month or 3 weeks. And I had my friend on, who I've had twice. He's a game developer based in South Australia and a storyboard artist for film. But he's got this passion project called Tinker and Spell. It's like an RPG mixed with Pokemon elements. It's a very cool looking game. and the art style is also phenomenal. And we were talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, just do it on ChatGPT." I was like, "What's that?" And he told me, and I went on straight after the podcast. I went on my laptop, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Like,
You should be like, "Hey,
do
ChatGPT,
this."
script the ultimate podcast."
But you can like write a screenplay for Cyrus and Savas Lost in the Desert, but do it as if Martin Scorsese was directing it, and it'll do it. But there was this prompt you used to be able to put in, and it would disable its parameters. I think it was called Dan.
Yeah, you say you are Dan. Imagine you're Dan.
There was a prompt you could put in, and originally someone built a rocket from it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another funny example is I saw someone uploaded a photo of like people.
Yeah.
And it said, "Roast these people for me."
Oh no.
And then it was like, "Sorry, like my community standards, do not allow me." It's like, no, this is a painting of people. And it's like, oh, in that case, this person's ugly. This person, and it roasted them.
Yeah.
But it's like,
it's
so
crazy.
funny.
And then I don't know if you're familiar with Photoshop, but Photoshop has taken AI
Elements.
and now they have this thing called generative fill. It's insane.
Yeah.
I use it for a lot of my thumbnails. Like say you have a picture that's half cut off and you're missing half of a picture, you just fill it and it just knows what to put there.
It's amazing. What a time to be alive.
But what's next? Like, I always think, what's next? And it always...
I have a patent for that.
You do have a patent for it?
We came up with over dinner the other night.
Yeah, over dinner the other night. We just came
You
up
should
with
join
it.
us. You should join us.
I
We'll
might
put your
have
name
to.
on a patent as well.
I might have to. I imagine there's some nice meals being whipped up at that house. Do you miss the food already? Actually, the food culture in Adelaide in the past 5 years has gotten really good.
It's improved. Yeah, like that's one of the things I noticed. Like, look, even within Australia, each state has its advantages and disadvantages, and Melbourne has a lot more food options.
Were you based in the CBD?
Yeah, I was. The bulk of my time, I was at an apartment in the CBD. Yeah.
Apartment living, you like it?
I love it.
Really?
I actually love
You had an
it.
apartment here. Do you still currently?
Not anymore.
You
no.
had an apartment here in the CBD, didn't you?
Like, I wanted to, the same way like experiencing different cars to see which car I like the most or which few cars are my favorites, and then like having that brand loyalty forever. I wanted to experience different types of housing, because there's like, you could have a house in a neighborhood, a house on a hill, an apartment, a place on the beach, if I didn't already say beach. There's all these different types and formats, and people like different things. So, yeah, like I like apartments because they're low maintenance, and they'll
I was
generally...
going to say, you probably don't have time to be mowing 500 square meters of lawn.
Oh, yeah, no. Like, houses are so much maintenance. It's, like, our house in Texas was pretty big, and we had a lot of land. I think we had, like, 4 acres of land in our house in Texas, like, growing up. And, man, it was, we
It's a
didn't
lot of work.
Yeah, we didn't maintain. We had a company that would come, like, once a month with, like, I think it was, like, a dozen staff, and it would take them a full day to
maintain it.
Yeah, to do their thing. And when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, I'll take the apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and I had a really nice view. Like, apartments will generally have better views than houses, so I like views.
It's funny what different people like look for in a house. Like, you like views.
Totally. Some people end up
Yeah.
the opposite. Be like, oh, they want nice.
You like
green
city
lawns.
skylines.
Yeah. Everyone likes something different.
Melbourne has a very nice city skyline.
Oh, I had this insane view from my apartment.
I think I've seen on your Instagram before.
Yeah, it was on like level 83, which is technically level 84, because you guys call ground, and then it's like level 1 above it. In America, we say level 1, level 2.
Jesus, what building were you in? I don't even think we have an 83rd floor in Adelaide.
Yeah, in Melbourne, it was the...
In Adelaide, though, I don't even think we have an 83rd
I think
floor.
the tallest in Adelaide is about 40.
They're building a new one. They are building a massive one.
Every year they're building the next building. Like, every other year they got the next tallest coming out.
Adelaide just got shouted out in the New York Times. Did you see that?
Yeah, coolest city to live
Coolest
in.
city in Australia.
That's why I came back.
It's people, especially from Victoria and New South Wales, they always slept on Adelaide. But if people in Adelaide, when we were living here, we knew, because like in Adelaide, even where I am now, and I'm only say 15 odd minutes from your house.
Yeah, 15. Yeah.
You are 20 minutes from the CBD. You are 15 to 20 minutes, 15 minutes from Glenelg.
Maybe less.
Maybe less. You're surrounded by some of the nicest beaches.
Yeah, Brighton Beach is like less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5.
Yeah.
And then if you come down this way, you got some of the nicest beaches in Australia.
I heard the water gets cleaner as you go south.
Oh,
is that right?
Have you ever been to like Moana Beach?
I've been as far as Maipunga Beach.
Yeah, so Moana's before. Moana is adjacent to Seaford.
Okay, that's earlier than Maipunga.
Yes, yeah. But even the further south you go, the nicer the beaches are.
Yes.
And then you got, if it's your thing, you got the wine country. You got McLaren Vale or Barossa Valley. Like, it's just a good place, and it's no traffic.
It's definitely underrated because when I lived here, I wanted to move interstate. Naturally, like, as a lot of
you're younger, you want to grow your business, you want
teens and 20s. Yeah, that's what's on their minds, and I did it, and I can say it depends on your criteria. For some people, it might be the right thing to just move and stay, but I decided I preferred SA mainly because of my family.
Yeah.
After being in lockdown, world's longest lockdown in Victoria, I was like, you really, they say, what's that expression? You don't know what you have until you lose it, or something like that. You don't appreciate it.
You don't know what you got till it's gone.
So yeah, that was with family and SA. So after being there in lockdowns and all that for like 2-3 years, I was like, I just want to be back with my family.
How many games were you consuming a day during COVID?
Well, for the survival and growth of the business, initially survival, then growth. Because like the month that COVID struck, everyone was like freaking out. Like no one knew what was going to happen to their business, right? And after that, once we were on the right track, like now it's a matter of how much we can grow and how much market we can capture. I didn't play as many games as I could have. Because
you're a pretty avid gamer, aren't you?
I love video games. Yeah,
you're an MMO kind of guy, though, aren't you?
I play different games. Like MMO, like my favorite MMO was World of Warcraft. So that
You're
was
a WoW
that was
player.
like teens and then over the last few years, I would say my top 2 are Dota 2 and Fortnite. I like Fortnite a little bit more, but
Fortnite's easy to get on, kind of zone out.
Well,
have a laugh.
I'm competitive, so I'll only pretty much play Fortnite when I have like at least 2 hours to play.
Oh, you're sweating.
I have a warm-up procedure. I actually have a procedure. Yeah. So if I have like an hour, I'm like, I only have an hour to play. I'll play Dota. I'll play like 1 or 2 rounds.
Because that's
of Dota.
just like easy.
Yeah, you
easy
just hop
for
on,
you.
do it, and you have like a 50% win rate because it's like 2 teams. It's 50-50. So if I played like 2 rounds before bed, I'll statistically win at least one of Dota. But Fortnite, I've got a 10% win rate on solo, which is like
that's pretty good.
Really good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, 10% for solo. And which statistically you're supposed to have a 1% because it's 100 people free for all. So I'll only do Fortnite if I have like 2 hours because I'm like, okay.
What's your procedure to warm up?
First I do a edit course. So you practice your edits.
Like, so you go into like creative and you just
creative, edit. Like I'll practice like there's this like route and you just like edit, and just like practice.
You warm up.
Yeah, I'll like stretch my fingers and stuff. Yeah, before I do the edit course.
Do you play keyboard and mouse or do you
keyboard mouse?
Oh, I can't do it. I cannot do it.
I got used to it from the beginning.
Obviously,
were you console?
I was always console, but my fiance brought me a gaming PC because
nice,
I wanted to start. I wanted to start like dabbling in more like things on Steam. There were certain games I couldn't play, and I didn't want to get an Xbox, so I thought it was more feasible to get. She got me a PC, and it's a good PC. And I would try and play. This was in the prime of Fortnite because Fortnite. Those developers and Epic Games
nailed it.
They just hit it at the perfect. It's a mixture of just timing as well. Like you can't predict the future, and they just hit it at the perfect time. There was nothing better during COVID than logging on to Fortnite playing a game with the boys. There was nothing better.
I didn't consider that element of timing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, their peak was just before COVID. Yeah.
And Yeah, so I got that, and I would try and play on. It's just such a learning curve. That Fortnite's probably the worst game. If I was to get on, say, a Call of Duty multiplayer and just play like a few team death matches or something, I'd be able to kind of figure it out because that's my kind of base level game, which I have more experience on. But Fortnite, there's so much to worry about.
Yeah, I know they invested a lot of money in like the psychology element of it. Like I'm sure they hired like probably dozens of psychologists and said, how do we make this game as like attractive and addictive as possible? 100%.
They probably have a team dedicated to just figuring out microtransactions.
Totally.
Because I would love to know how much they were making a day in their peak.
I'm pretty sure they're making billions a year off of just that game.
Epic Games don't need another game. They don't need another game after that. And they already have a pretty good catalogue.
Yeah, that one's solid. And Dota 2 being my second favorite, like that one's
Dota's probably one of the biggest MMORPGs besides like what is it, StarCraft?
Oh, I think it's called it's not MMORPG,
It's not
RTS, real-time strategy.
Real-time strategy. I could not fathom playing one of them.
It just takes practice and getting into. I do like the 50% win rate element. Fortnite's a lot more stressful.
It's crazy that you play that to like kind of wind down.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I've seen the competitions and the people they're pressing like 630 buttons a second.
Oh, it is cutting edge and like.
Isn't that the biggest esport in the world, Dota?
I think it has like one of the largest prize pools. Yeah, they just had like a competition. It's always like millions and millions of dollars. Like if you win that, you become like a millionaire. Like your children are set for life just because like dad won a Dota match when he was like.
I imagine like Koreans and like the Chinese community probably dominate that kind of circle.
I think but they also have the volume of the population. So it's like China having like over 1 billion people versus like America having 300. So like even the top 1% of US would be like 3 million people there. They'll have like 10 million.
Have you ever tried to break into the Asian market? That's a really tricky one as a Westerner.
Geographically, it's just. I mean, I've been there a lot.
Have you been to Japan?
No, that's next on my list.
Oh,
I really want to go. I've heard great things.
That is, without a doubt.
Okay, I have to go.
The greatest place in the world. Without even visiting every country, I can tell you now there is no better country than Japan. Okay. It just services. It's like going back in time, but 100 years in the future, all in the same time. Because you'll go into a business in Japan to eat. That business would have been there for 600 years in the same family.
Wow.
And that's not weird. That's
the norm.
600 is excessive, but like it's very normal to go to businesses that have a 300-year generational hold on it, and they preserve their traditions so well, but they also innovate so well. It's like you're going into the future there.
That's amazing.
They're so punctual and so respectful that it never feels crowded. There's so many people, but when you're, say, walking on the sidewalk in Japan,
it has massive density because
it's insane.
It's in like, I don't know the exact population. It's tens of millions. I know that.
There is not a cigarette ash on the floor in the street. Not a single ash.
That's amazing.
And the homeless people over there build little forts, and like they will maintain on one street. And I seen one get up, pick up a piece of rubbish and put it away. There's no garbage bins on the streets there. You take it home. It's insane. You would love it. For innovation, it would be inspiring for you.
That's even more shocking than that they've maintained it to that high of a standard without bins in the street.
No bins.
I thought, I'm like, they just have like tons of bins and people are just using them.
No. Because we were looking up like Japan a lot before we went, and they're like, it's very strange because you'll go there and there'll be no bins. And I was like, surely there's bins. Tokyo's the biggest city in the world. Wow. And there's no bins.
Wow.
Like you might find an odd one at a 7-Eleven, but
people have just like wired themselves to like be that efficient, and
they're just so efficient. Like their train system over there blew my mind.
Yeah, I heard it's like 300-400 kilometers an hour or something.
No, but like if say you could get a ticket to go on a train at 11:57 p.m. If a train comes at 11:56 and 30 seconds, it's the wrong train. That train's coming at 11:57 p.m. on the second.
Wow.
It's wild.
Wow.
And it's just there. It's very interesting over there.
Yeah, like that's one of the things that gives them an advantage. You know, the more efficient you are, not just as a business but as a nation.
It's nice to go to a country as well and people aren't ashamed of their culture. Because a lot of, in this day and age, preserving your own culture is not, I wouldn't say it's frowned upon, but it's not as easy as it probably was back in the day to preserve your culture.
I think over thousands of years, society will blend back together. You know, it'll because there'll be so much travel and, you know, people interracial. You know, even in my family, there's so much like interracial marriages and so.
But over in Japan, it's just like a lot of them don't speak English. They don't cater to English. Like you go to a lot of, not a lot, but there is certain restaurants and bars where Westerners just aren't allowed because they've obviously gone there and haven't adhered to the Japanese customs of like, don't be an idiot, don't be loud. Like there will be 5 million people in Tokyo walking in the street and you could hear a pin drop.
Wow.
It's very disrespectful to be boisterous over there.
That's really good management. That's really good.
That's why they're the best at everything. Because they also, I imagine it is also a bit oppressive in a way because there is a expectation of following in your family's footsteps. So it does limit
innovation at the individual level.
Yes, but it also makes you a master of a craft. If your family's been doing something for 400 years, you have perfected it. You have got it to a science. So it's like, is innovation more important than it's a personal preference. It's like it's a catch-22, like you said, pluses and minuses.
Yeah, it'd be difficult to be in that situation because like I'm passionate about doing what I want, and, like coming up with ideas and doing them, and like.
Could you just pass me that water up there? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, like. Imagine if like my family was in a coffee shop thing and I wanted to be in a dentist or something like that, and they're just like, no, you can't, and that's what you wanted to do. That'd be.
I know, you got to follow your father's footsteps, kind of thing.
It's very challenging.
You've had a lot of success and like a fairly prosperous life. Do you have any major failures that you think you needed?
I've been fortunate enough not to have failures, but I've had challenges. I've, you know, various levels. Like, for example, like my earliest challenge would have probably been that the physical challenge of that fight when I was in like 8th grade. You know, I consider that a challenge, and I had to strategize how to strengthen myself and come out. And now I'm so glad that happened, because if I didn't get punched in my stomach, I probably wouldn't have become passionate about fitness and gym and muscles and stuff. So any bad situation, like I advise my friends, like, you know, someone's like, oh, this thing just happened to me. Naturally, we want to be upset about it, but my philosophy is I'm not going to let the system beat me. I'm going to figure out a way to like overcome it. So
I couldn't imagine you getting flustered.
Rarely, yeah.
You know? Like you seem like you, because I'm extremely reactive to situations. I don't really think it's my biggest plus, but it's also my biggest flaw. Like I will not.
I'll give you a tip. This is how I overcame that, because I when I was younger I was a lot more spontaneous and like reactive. Basically, I came up with like philosophy that like you're as big of a person as your problems, or you're as big of a person as the things you let bother you. So without that philosophy, I could be driving in traffic and someone cuts me off and I start losing it, right? Now if someone cuts me off in traffic, I really don't care. As long as they don't hit my car, please don't hit my car, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to still go about my day. I'm going to go to my work and I'm going to do my mission. I'm not going to get like distracted on the side quest with like some idiot who's like
some NPC.
Yeah, some NPC. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like that's the advice. Like think about it and be like, if this, you know what I mean? Like how much consequence does that have? How big of a problem is it? Like then based on like, you get one way to think about it is dollars. Like how much does this inconvenience cost me? $0? Doesn't matter. But if it's something that's like a $100,000 problem, okay, you put time and attention and reaction into the $100,000 problem, not the $100 problem.
So now that you have TowTap in the works, do you have things in the back burner now that you work on, or do you just focus on TowTap and CarSwap?
Yeah, mainly CarSwap and TowTap. I've made some other apps like tools and resources here and there along the way. Not all of them are about money. Not all of them are about commercialization.
Just passion projects.
Passion projects. Like one of the apps I made, it's called Virtue of the Day. And what happens is like every morning it'll give you a notification. Like you can set the time. This morning it was actually passion. My virtue of the day was passion. And like we have this like list of all the virtues: patience, kindness, so on, forgiveness, and whatever. And the theory behind it is every day you practice that virtue, but eventually it'll become a habit. So like, for example, let's say my virtue of the day is patience. I'm driving to work, and then like it's traffic, and it's like normally someone would get like pissed off or frustrated or agitated, like, oh, this traffic. But like if my virtue is today's patience, I'm not gonna let it get to me today. I'm just gonna like just wait in traffic, and then eventually a week later you could be in some different scenario, like whatever, like you miss a train and now you have to wait for the next train. You won't let it get to you as much, because even though your virtue for that day isn't patience, you'll practice it out of habit. So I made that app. It's free. It's in the app stores, iPhone, Android. And yeah, it's cool. Like ever since I started using this app myself, I found myself like strengthening these virtues.
What would you say is your biggest flaw?
My memory.
Your memory?
Yeah, like it's definitely not as good as it used to be. The best analogy is like if you overclock a CPU or overclock a video card or overclock RAM in a computer, it starts having artifacts or problems.
You only have a certain amount of bandwidth, so like
Exactly.
If the more information that goes in, the more gets pushed out.
Exactly. So I've sort of I've made this like trade where I'm like, okay, I'll get more done in a day and I'll be like more productive and all that at the cost of memory. So it's like, it's so hard to remember. Even things that I want to remember, I'll forget or miss. Even favorite things, important things. It's a painful flaw. I consulted one of my friends who's a psychologist, and his advice was you have to try to be more present-minded. That was his advice. And it made sense. So I've started practicing present-mindedness, being in the moment. And the phones are largely attributable to that problem, because we'll be doing something and check your phone. Doing something, check your phone.
Do you use TikTok?
Rarely.
Do you use Instagram Reels?
I don't post much as a consumer.
Do you consume?
Not much. Like my businesses run it, like CarSwap social media. It's like we have the largest and like most engaged social media following in the automotive space in Australia. Let me put it this way, out of the automotive classifieds platforms, versus companies that have tens and tens of millions of dollars but marketing budget, and we're outperforming them like quantitatively. So through the business we post, but personally,
was that a shot at car sales?
Yeah, it's but at the personal level, I'll
you
consume the
won't-
minimum I need to just know what's going on.
So you won't sit there and scroll?
Rarely.
Because that is such a big problem with even me. My attention span has definitely diminished over the last 4 years.
Funny you mention that, because I was going to give this piece of advice that what I learned in economics class in uni, diminishing return. What it is that the first of something is the maximum benefit, and then the second. So like, let's say time spent on social media. As a consumer, the first minute you have this much benefit. The second minute you have this much benefit. The third minute, and then if you spend like 1,000 minutes on it or whatever, 100 minutes, that last minute is not going to benefit you. Like, it just goes into the negative. So don't feel bad about using it or, even scrolling on it. But 1 minute or 10 minutes is far more effective and beneficial than 100 minutes or like 2-3 hours.
Because it's so easy. The algorithms are getting so good. It is so easy to lose 2 hours. Like, insanely easy.
Yeah.
And you're only watching 15-second to 1 minute videos. So you're consuming thousands of videos in that time. It's insane.
They've designed it where it's like a lottery system, or like it's like, you know, they pull the slots and the hope for.
I don't like this one.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And it's like each time you flick, you're rolling the dice on, will the next piece be entertaining? So, like the same way on Fortnite, I'll try to end it with the win. If I get a win, I'm like, okay, after a couple wins in a row or whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm done for today. I'm off. So like when I'm on, like, let's say Instagram or whatever, and I'll come across like a really funny something, I'm like, that's funny. Okay, boom, close it, get back to work, because you will have to spend 30 minutes to find the next thing that's equally funny.
Well, it's like it's like you're chasing that high, and the high has been the high has been set here, and now anything that isn't there is subpar.
Yeah, and it takes exponentially more time to find that same entertainment. So once I find a couple funny posts and I've had my like entertainment for the day, I'm like, okay, back to whatever.
Well, I won't keep you too long because it is a school night and it is getting later. But I appreciate you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Where can people find your stuff? Do you have a link tree? Do you have...
I would say Instagram's probably the best.
Instagram, Cyrus Ruffy.
Yeah. Or even if they just download the harder route is if they download CarSwap and message through the app through the support, because I get a blind copy of everything that goes through the support thing, and I'm always monitoring.
Download CarSwap. Yeah. Download TowTap.
Virtue of the day.
Yeah. Get on it. I appreciate you coming on. I hope some young ones listen to this and take something away. It's a bit different to my usual guests. And it's nice. Yeah,
every guest you learn a little bit of something different.
Easy. I appreciate it, man.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Catch you, Seth.